Hey there, welcome back to my channel. I'm Erica Romero from Ever Educating, and the month of October has hit, and so I want to talk about how to use Halloween in particular in the classroom, since this year it falls on a Thursday. So my blog post for today, which is linked below, is more generally about how to take advantage of holidays and use them in your classroom as lessons. But today I also want to focus on Halloween, hence my black outfit, because I think it can be really beneficial in a lot of different types of classrooms, different topics, different fields. And so just kind of two quick ideas of how you can potentially use Halloween as a way to kind of set up a lesson plan for the day that's fun and also educational for your students. So now the first way of doing it is to actually have a Halloween themed lesson. And so this will depend on your area that you are teaching. So obviously, as an English teacher, it's very easy for me to do this because there's definitely there's fairy tales that include witches, right? Or I can look into fairy tales with transformations into animals. Obviously, supernatural short stories. So there's plenty of literary references that I can do in the classroom, and we could just analyze them in the same way we're doing with other types of texts, but just having to have that theme. But it's not just literature, right? Obviously, writing in a similar way, you can have them create a short story that's supernatural-esque, and then have them share with the class and workshop it. Or even create their own characters. So there's a lot of creative stuff that you can do in literature and writing classrooms. But you also can consider, for example, in math classes, right? So you might talk about, numbers that are considered to be powerful, right? So 13, right? Why is that supposedly an unlucky number? 3, why is 3 such a powerful number? 7, okay, and so forth. So you might have almost like a short break with, doing regular math and having, let's talk about how numbers are seen as powerful in other ways than just actually doing some kind of mathematical equation. Okay? There are other avenues too, of course. It's not just talking about powerful numbers. You can talk about, a witch's circle, right? When practicing, figuring out the diameter, right? The circumference of a circle. So you can just kind of think about how you can make it thematic to your particular area, right? Obviously, sociology, anthropology, psychology, all those types, you can look into the history of, for example, witchcraft, right? Or talk about even, current day, Wicca, or whatever the case may be. If you're teaching religion, there's obviously many religions tied to the holiday or All Hallows Eve. So basically, idea one is to just actually have a Halloween-themed class tied to your area of study. And if you have an area of study that you're not sure how you can connect it to Halloween, please go ahead and let me know below, and I can probably give you some ideas, since we do have some time until Halloween actually hits later on this month. And if this first idea sounds great to you, you're going to use it in your classroom, go ahead and click the thumbs up button below to let me know that. So the second idea I've done once before in my class as well, and so when Halloween fell on a Thursday, I had students do cosplay, because that week happened to be a unit where we're talking about fandom. So I always do an adaptations unit in my classes, so I have them read a book, then watch the movie or maybe episodes of the TV show that's based off of it, and then read some fan fiction, look at fan art, watch fan videos, etc. And so an element of fandom that's very popular is cosplay or costume play. And so I invited all my students to dress up as either a character from a novel we've already read or their favorite character from a TV show, movie, play, video game, etc. And then they all came to class, and if they dressed up, then I had them share with their classmates, why did they dress up that way? Tell us about that character, right? What's that character's arc in whatever series or novel, etc. that they're part of? And so kind of had them do an analysis of themselves in the character that they dressed up as. And if they didn't dress up, I still had them choose a character, right, one of their favorites, to discuss with their classmates. And I just, kind of showed on the projector screen an image of that character, dressed up as that character. And so in that case, it was basically a lesson of tons of different novels, TV shows, movies, etc., because most of them dressed up quite differently from one another, different shows. So there was plenty of discussion of, all right, well, tell me about your character arc. Harry Potter, obviously you have the hero's journey. He's, a child, he's 11 when he first starts at Hogwarts, and then, at the end, we're, 19 years later, right? And so I asked the rest of my students, all right, how many of your characters have gone on a hero's or a heroine's journey? And then, hands raised, and so we discussed those, right? And then we can move on, right? So how many of your characters are part of a fantasy or sci-fi kind of storyline? And then we discuss those, right? So you can kind of, again, this is easier in a literature course or a writing course because it's really obviously connected not just to books, but also movies and TV shows are also narratives. They're also storytelling. And so that's one way of making it less about Halloween necessarily and more about, your topic too. So, but still, if you're in a math class, right, like dress up as your favorite mathematician. They probably don't have a favorite, but you can have that element of research a mathematician that, might inspire you, right? So what female mathematicians have we not talked about, right? Or do you not hear about who have done amazing things, right? If you're in a physics class, right, or in, again, anthropology, sociology, etc., pick a theorist, right, or a theory and kind of have that research. And if you don't want to dress up, that's fine. And you could still, again, project on the screen what that person looks like. And so that's the second idea of how to use Halloween to kind of really do a unusual and hopefully fun lesson with your students they might not expect and be pleasantly surprised by, right? So it doesn't have to be just a fun break of a day. It can just be thematic and still educational. And so if this is the idea that you want to use in your classroom, again, click the thumbs up button and let me know that at least one of these two ideas will be used in your class this October. And if you want to have more tips related to teaching, I also recommend clicking the subscribe button as well, because I post a video every Friday connected to either teaching or grad school life more generally.